I do think that globalization has improved the education system worldwide. Globalization, the internet, and online services have enabled much more choice in education and the best quality education to be accessible by the most people. So before all of these technology and trends materialized, before these technology trends materialized, we were limited to whichever professors were in our own schools and universities. Now we have the ability to choose whichever ones are best for us from wherever they are in the world. We see this in Khan Academy, in Udacity, in MITx, in edX, Coursera. I could go on. And here we can choose the professors and the courses that we feel are clearest and most help us understand the best, and the courses that are best, most closely aligned to what we're interested in. So there's much more choice now than there used to be, and costs have been very much reduced because there's much more scalability with online education. A single professor can teach 100,000 people, and we don't need a professor in every university anymore like we used to. Maybe at best we need someone to help with the homework assignments, which doesn't need to be a full professor. So the overall solution is more economical, the quality is better, and the students are the big winners. I do think in the future education will be much more seamlessly integrated with our day-to-day lives. It'll be a combination of online, classroom, and real-world work experience, all seamlessly integrated. The university of today, I compare to the IBM mainframe of yesteryear. The mainframe computer used to be the single large computer in a corporation that provided all of the processing power for the corporation. And today, that has given way to networks of servers and laptop devices and mobile devices that in aggregate provide the computing needs of a corporation by coordinating and communicating with each other. Similarly, in the future, I don't see that our education will be provided anymore by a single university that we attend for 4 years. Rather, it'll be much more a fluid process of some online courses that are provided by some universities that specialize and excel in those areas, others that will be offered by whatever university we are living at, and all of that interspersed with online work experience, real-world work experience where we learn about whatever skills we're trying to develop. And each path will be tailored uniquely for each individual. It won't be the case that everybody follows the same undergraduate curriculum who majors in a particular field. Every path will be different, and we won't necessarily spend every semester at the university anymore. It's more economical to be at home or to work while we're studying. And so I think we might see a return to what used to be the apprenticeship model of yesteryear, where some a young person worked side by side with a master in his or her field, and learned the trade that way. And so we'll see that kind of training interspersed with work experience and I mean that kind of training interspersed with coursework and living on a university. So those are some thoughts about how education will evolve. Here's another way. The pace of technological change is inexorably increasing. And so a century ago, what you learned between the ages of 18 and 22 wasn't going to change very dramatically, very rapidly. But at least by today's standards. Today, things are changing much more rapidly. And so what I can learn during the 4 years that I'm in college is a smaller percentage of everything I need to know for the rest of my life than it used to be, because so much more change is happening more quickly now. So how can I keep up to date with the latest ideas and tools and techniques and skills and so forth in my field? Well, one way is to have continuing education for the rest of my life. So we may see that the education of the future is not 4 years during the ages of 18 and 22, but rather a couple of years, and then I return to take courses either online or at a residential university or a combination of the both for several weeks each year for the next 10 years or for the rest of my life. And that way, get enough knowledge at the outset so I can get started in my field, but also continually learn so that I can stay current in my field. Maybe in the future, it'll even be a continuous process so that I'm learning continuously while I'm working in my field. And so I never actually go back to school, but I just, the learning I need to know is integrated in with my work, maybe using artificial intelligence. So those are some ideas. Certainly, the education that we get for what it costs us is not very satisfactory. Let me repeat that because you were wrestling.
Sorry, because you told me I have to make photos while I interview. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Certainly, the education that we get in the United States, secondary K through 12, kindergarten through 12 education is not very cost effective. It's hugely expensive, and our students don't perform well, and they haven't shown any market improvement over several decades despite an ever-increasing amount that's spent on public education. I don't find that surprising at all, because education is essentially a monopoly. It's insulated from market forces. It's controlled and run by the government. Government agencies, as a rule, don't have much incentive to be innovative or cost-effective or customer service oriented. They primarily are incentivized to strengthen their positions as government agencies, as we know from public choice analysis and theory. So it shouldn't be surprising at all. Like the U.S. Postal Service, how hopelessly antiquated it seems as compared to either Federal Express or email as alternatives for sending communications. So I'm optimistic that introducing competition into public education will both improve its quality and let us deliver it more cost effectively. School choice and the school choice movement are one small step in this direction. Those are some thoughts. Unleash Your Inner Company is a distillation of everything I've learned about entrepreneurship since I started my first company 25 years ago. In that time, I've started, grown, and sold 3 companies. It lays out a 10-step process for discovering, launching, and scaling the ideal business for you. Starting with, where in your life have you experienced positive feedback between passion and perseverance? Those are really good areas to consider starting a new business. Step 2, what are unsatisfied customer needs in those areas? The book shows you how to find a potentially infinite number of unsatisfied customer needs, even just in the areas you're passionate about. All the way through to step number 10, scaling up the uniquely differentiated business you've created. It's an iterative process, which means you try a lot of things and see what works as you do them, which is the real world approach to discovery and innovation. Along the way, we inventory and catalog all of the resources that you bring to bear to start a company. They are your skills, your technologies, your assets, your achievements, your reputation, your relationships, and your strengths, as in inner strengths. That spells the word STARS. And we're constantly using this inventory of all of your resources to figure out which of those customer needs that we've identified have the best fit with you and your resources. The ones that have the best fit are where you're most likely to be successful. So in this 10-step process, we're making that fit between customer need and you and your resources as strong as possible by, for example, finding the right co-founder, developing your skills, developing prototypes, acquiring the right tools and equipment, resorting the fits, crossing the least good fits off the bottom of the list, finally narrowing it down to the one best fit, and then launching and scaling up that business. That, in a nutshell, is Unleash Your Inner Company. This is my 5th year as part of the Free Market Roadshow. I have been honored to be part of it. I've learned a great deal. I've met some wonderful thought leaders. I've met people who love and admire and aspire to freedom across Europe, both East and West Europe. I think the Roadshow is doing a great deal of good because it is bringing together the community of people throughout Europe as part of a roadshow and helping connect the dots among what had previously been separate pools of advocates for freedom and free markets, and helping them build on each other, learn from each other, and strengthen each other. So I think it's doing a great deal of good, and I admire and congratulate Barbara Kolm and the Austrian Economic Center for conceiving and executing the idea, and I've been honored to be part of it. I am optimistic about the future because generally I feel truth will out. And if there are things which are good, people will find a way to either create them or acquire them. And I think at root, people want good. They want freedom, creativity, innovation, improvements in the quality of their life. They want the lives of their children to be better than their own lives. All of these things are good things to want, and people will figure out a way to get them. I think we'll get smarter as time goes on. We won't be fooled by promises for short-term benefits that have long-term negative consequences. For example, redistribution of wealth that might help some people in the short term, but which hurts everyone in the long term. Like protectionism, which we talked about today, which helps some people in the short term, but which hurts people and industries and countries in the longer term. That longer term is getting shorter every year as the pace of technology advances. And so the benefits of protectionism or redistribution of wealth are becoming ever shorter and ever shorter term. And so I think people will recognize that. And so the next time a opportunity comes along where a politician says, let's protect our industries from competition, or let's redistribute wealth to help the poor, there'll be greater and greater understanding that protectionism really destroys the industry because it keeps it from evolving. The rest of the world won't stop evolving even though our country, be it Spain or the United States, does. Or redistribution of wealth that reduces incentives for both productive people to be productive and unproductive people to be productive is a net loss overall.